It's time again for the best story time since I caught my teenagers doing something dumb, and I promise you that this one is much more truthful. Welcome to the May Wild West Show, the podcast about the hedonistic adventures of myself and my friends in the modern American Wild West. Yeah, the Rocky Mountain region, where it's so fucking cold that all we do all winter long is fuck. This is the show where we tell our sometimes reckless, usually sexy, and always thrilling lives. My name, of course, is May Wild West, and I'm a mom, a wife, the loudest person at the football games, a member of our local flower club, and also the infamous Pineapple Club. Yes, my husband and I swing, sometimes called hot wife, but mostly we just enjoy having sex and a good time with our friends. My entire life, I've had a tendency to get myself into some sticky situations and adventures, partially due to my curiosity and partially to a I'll do anything for science mentality. The stories we will share are going to be sexy, spicy, and completely inappropriate for anybody under the age of 18. Think sex, drugs, rock and roll, and a load of laundry. As always, this podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. Now, let's full send into today's episode. And guess what I did? I fucked a dude who wasn't my husband and didn't end up on an episode of Cops. So, yay me! On today's episode, we have my wonderful husband, who I'm going to call Mr. West, for you guys today. And he is going to be on today, and we're going to talk about the first time we ever had a threesome, which would have been the first time we ever did anything like this. One thing, though, that I figured out when we were recording the first episode was there's a lot of things that maybe people don't know exactly what we're talking about. And it can get very, very confusing because there are so many labels for people and so many names for things that don't always translate all the way across the board. There's this website called FetLife, which is a place where people can meet up. It's a place where people can talk and find other people who have the same kinks as them. Generally, it's a little rougher, hardcore, I guess, than things like Cassidy or Adult Friend Finder.
Those
So
are going to
the
be pretty vanilla comparatively to FetLife, I would say, if that's the word you're looking for.
yeah.
Um, you're not gonna get the same experience for sure.
No, you are not going to get the same experience with FetLife. There's going to be a whole lot of things that I had absolutely no idea existed. But
Right?
they do have their Kinctionary, and they have defined every term that you could ever even remotely think of, like every term. So,
Things you could never think of too.
yeah, things I never thought of. The first one I thought was important is swing, because that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Like, example, it can go everything from soft swap, which is you only do oral and then you actually only have penetrate sex with your original partner, to you I go on dates, you go on dates, and everything in between. But what the actual like professional's definition of it is partner swapping. So swinging technically, I guess, is where you have two couples. We don't always necessarily identify as swingers. Usually we tell people we're hedonists, and a hedonist is a person with a strong focus on the pursuit of pleasure, which to us sort of seems like stupid why you wouldn't be one, because who wants to do stuff that isn't fun?
Right?
So that's, sort of like our thing is we just want to go and have fun, and we want to do things that feel good and things that make us feel joy, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's purpose. As long as everybody's consenting and having fun, then I don't see much harm in it.
So what we end up doing a lot is having threesomes, partially because we suck at planning. So a male female threesome is easy to get on the fly. And secondly, because, well, let's face facts, unicorns are impossible to find. And for people, like two couples that all are vibing together and find each other attractive and all want to be there is probably harder to find than a unicorn, I think sometimes.
I would have to probably say I agree. It's real tough sometimes with couples.
Yeah, that and actually I believe we're going to have not maybe this next episode, but maybe the episode after that, we're going to talk about awkward couples stuff. Like the first
Oh
time we
man.
hooked up with a couple.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely good stories there. I'm sure that probably there's millions of them out there that are way better than ours, but for for our first times, it was interesting.
Yeah. So the other terminology that kind of fits what we do is called stag vixen. And I'm going to read you like the technical definition because it's just probably going to be easier. So the male identifying partner engages in sexual relations with another person or persons together with their partner, who's referred to as the vixen, except for, I mean, that's the female part. Part of the enjoyment for the stag is arranging, thinking of, watching, and hearing about their partner's sexual relationships with others. The stag enjoys the vixen being desired and sexually enjoying themselves with another person. So there's that, and usually it is more of a situation where there's a lot of respect between the two men who are involved in it, or respect between the two women who are involved. That kind of like more closely to what you think of
Yeah, I
your.
would say that that's the case. There's no degradation or demeaningness to the male partner, or I guess the partner that's maybe not even involved physically in the actual activity. So yeah, I would, I mean, the stag is like the opposite of a cuck in my opinion.
So then part of the enjoyment for the vixen is thinking of and witnessing their stag's sexual arousal, adoration, and gratification as the vixen engages in sexual relationships and encounters with others. And I think that this is at least for us, the still stag vixen thing goes both directions because I know that he truly enjoys watching me have sex with other people and have enjoyment and get off and have all these orgasms. And I truly enjoy watching him give women orgasms because I'm like, yeah, that's mine. I'll loan that to you for a while, but I get to take that home when I want to. So that's mine. So that's where I'm at on that deal. That's sort of how all those things we had no idea when we started. Like we didn't really, I mean, of course the first thing I did was like read every book and internet page I could find on it, and mostly that just confused everybody. So I thought we would tell the story of our first encounter today. And that's why I brought on Mr. West, is because, well, he was the other person there for it. And it's a fairly entertaining story. So I guess let's get started. And we've been doing this since I figured it out, 2017.
Damn,
Yeah, 2017 is when we started. We do not live near a big city at all. And swinging
we live in the
or
middle of fucking nowhere.
bumfuck Egypt, yes. So any kind of lifestyle events are very, very difficult here. And especially back in 2017, we had a couple of kids in school and they were young. And the last thing we wanted was to embarrass the shit out of them by somebody in town finding out that their parents were freaks.
All right. Well, I mean, we try not to scar the children if we can avoid it.
Yeah, right.
Some of it's probably good for them, but we try to avoid this specific subject of embarrassing them with.
Right. Facts. We go down to Denver a lot to engage in our fun activities, our partying, our sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Avoid the laundry while we're down there. And as we were driving down there, all of a sudden he was like, "Why don't you look on?" Was Double List the thing back then?
Actually, we
Well,
weren't driving down there. We actually were going to pick up some weed from my drug dealer because I still hadn't gotten with the times of like going and buying it from a dispensary like a normal fucking person because it really, I felt better getting it from a drug dealer. But after we got done buying some weed from my buddy, then on the way we were headed to Denver because we were gonna go do some partying, if I remember correctly, and somewhere in between Colorado and Denver, there, I decided that we should, maybe try to find a guy and have a threesome, like completely out of the blue.
And we had talked about it in the past, and we had tried to
Yeah,
find couples and
women and like
yeah,
probably I think the majority of most new couples they're nervous, and I think that having I think doing it with a couple makes them probably for the most part makes most people feel more comfortable because for the for the male, then there's the female there that he gets to enjoy, so it's not, I mean, I think that for most people that are exploring this, they don't know what they like or what they're not going to like. So I think that new couples seeking out other couples is probably a rational thing.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I know for me, even still today, like having a threesome with and like specifically looking for just another guy to hook up with, I still struggle with like I'm like, "Oh, I hope he really doesn't think that I need to have an extra guy, that he's not good enough." So I can see
I'm
where.
probably not good enough, but that's, I mean, that's another story, a completely different day. But
So it was double list, right? Wasn't it? I mean, this wasn't Craigslist personals. We're not that old, are we?
no, I'm pretty sure it was double list. I think
So,
Craigslist personals had gone by the wayside by then. I think the federal government had caught onto it and cut us off.
oh, that was so much entertainment.
God, the entertainment of that shit was better than anything you could actually find on it, probably.
Probably. So, of course, we don't plan anything. Like I said, we suck at planning shit. So we are scrolling through this shit and doing 80 down the interstate, and we're getting closer to Denver, and I'm starting to go, I don't know. Because, I mean, it's like a big step. And so finally, I think you looked at me and you're like, just pick one.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's pretty much
Like,
what I did.
just pick one. And so I did. I honest to God cannot even remember anything that was in the messages or anything that would have made me pick him at all. I,
Probably based upon the rest of it, it was safe and he seemed non-threatening.
and that was really a lot of it. So we meet this guy in downtown at this bar that's got like ivy growing on the walls, and I, it was so
Like a
cool.
little cantina, I think it was, because I had a margarita, if I remember correctly.
You always have
But
a margarita. How
well,
does that
yeah, but
make a
I mean, like,
difference?
yeah, that made it. But I mean, like, it was just like a little. I think it was like a cantina. But a pretty nice place, you know. Like I
And he
said,
walks in.
safe, not threatening.
He's wearing Dockers, and I mean, we're from the country, so I don't believe I've ever seen you wearing a pair of Dockers or ever even contemplated the thought of you wearing a pair of Dockers
I
before
don't
this
think
moment.
I've ever owned a pair of Dockers.
And he looked like he was in IT or sold,
Insurance,
insurance. Heavier on the dad bod side, had one of those metrosexual beards that was big back then.
goatee, or whatever it was. Yeah.
Uh, and I could tell you at first I was like, oh, well,
This is gonna be boring,
it wasn't even
or
that. It was more
I
like
don't.
he's just
Yeah,
not as attractive as I had hoped or any.
expectations were not quite as met as we thought they were going to be
So we sat there and talked
for
and
quite a
talked.
while. To have, and I think it's pretty normal that I think that people do that, especially the first few times, because how do you transition from, talking to some random stranger to going, hey, let's go fuck, without coming
Come to
across
find out, I'm
as,
getting way too good at it.
so I mean, that is a definite issue, I think, for new people in the lifestyle is, I mean, that's not normal, I guess, in society to be like that forward with that thing, that type of thing. I don't think, but in this lifestyle, it's encouraged.
Right? Yeah, you just interrupt people. It's cool. Like, be like, hey, can I join your group? Hey,
Right.
you want to get
Hey.
naked with me?
Right. It's definitely a different way of approaching life. Much
So,
simpler when you think about it.
right? Definitely. So, I will say though, I mean, dude ate pussy like it was his job, like a fat kid on a cupcake. That was solid. I mean, gonna give credit where credit's due. So, I know that you were a little nervous because it was one of those situations, and I know because I've been on the other side of it, that one situation where you're like, okay, well, this is either going to go really well or I am going to lose my shit because I can't deal with that. And
Right. I mean,
then
I think that everybody that enters into this, I mean, like outwardly they want to be like, oh yeah, no, we're good, we're good. I mean, everybody's awesome, and I mean, you really, if if we all want to be honest with each other and sit down and have that conversation, I think that it scares the shit out of you, and for you got to tell yourself, well, the thought of it really turns me on, and all that I'm imagining in my head excites me, and and is sexually a turn on. But the reality of it is that some dude is about ready to fucking dick down your wife, and you're not real sure that how you're going to feel about it afterwards.
it's literally like jumping off of a cliff or with an umbrella for a parachute because
Right.
you don't have any idea how any of you are going to feel afterwards. And can you fix that fuck up?
Right. Can you work past that once you do it? That's why a lot of couples fail miserably in the swinging lifestyle. But
The biggest thing that I thought that I didn't, I guess, realize was going to be as big of a deal as it was the reclaiming and the aftercare afterwards.
I think it's important.
Well, I
You
didn't even know what it really was until
No, no, we
until
didn't.
we got to this situation, and then afterwards, well, first of all, afterwards, like after he left, went, what the fuck? Okay.
So that
Um,
was fucking okay, all right.
the sex was bomb completely after he like walked out and left, and we both went, okay, that was bomb sex.
Yeah, it was definitely good.
And then we went and took a shower and, like you do, you washed my hair and it was just a lot more of like that, okay, well, we're okay.
For women especially, they need to be assured that everything is okay, that you're okay with what just happened, and letting them feel okay with what just happened, because I think there's a lot of guilt on both sides, whether it's the male half or the female half, the receiving half, giving half. I don't think it matters. I think there's a level of feeling ashamed that you enjoyed it.
I can tell you that if you enjoy it, then you feel like, "Oh, well, shit, I'm a whore." And then you look at your husband and go, "Okay, well, does he think I'm a whore?"
Right. Or for the male, you enjoyed, another woman, sucking you off, or you enjoyed fucking another woman. And then pretty soon, you said, oh my God, is my wife looking at me like that she's better, or or that I want her more? Or there is so many thoughts racing through your head as you go through the beginning stages of this, and just in case anybody wants to think that it's a real quick in and out of that phase, that no bullshit, it's going to last a little while.
So, that was that, and we thought, that was great, and that was okay, that's over with, and we were probably not gonna do that with that guy again, but we survived. And
And we didn't even really sure that we were going to do it again at all, to be honest with you. It was, we weren't sure. And I mean, it was, and I think that a lot of people go through that. I don't assume that it's an abnormal thought process to deal with it afterwards.
but now the gentleman, he thought we should do it again.
Oh yeah, no, he thought we should totally be. He was way into it, but that's
So, he texted
pretty
us
normal
and
considering what he gets to do when he fucks my wife. So
well, I mean, I don't know about back then, but, I'm fairly good at it these days. Lots of
all right,
practice. So, dude messages us, right? Out of the blue, a couple days later, to tell me that he has herpes and that I gave it to him.
right.
And
So
I'm
that
like
that was interesting.
and I'm like, "Okay, well, to start with, I haven't had sex with anybody but Mr. West since 2009. So if I had herpes, I'm guessing that somewhere in that, intervening 8 years,
I would have known about it.
I'd have found out. But of course, like, I mean, okay, so yeah, no, we didn't use a condom. He had his test results. He was clean supposedly, which is where we're going to get to test results and condoms in a second. But it was the first time that we had done this, and I panicked, hardcore panic. Of course, we live in a town of like no people. And so I am like, I have to go get an STD test. And what am I going to do? And how am I going to do this without having the entire town find out?
Small towns, it just is one of them things. I know people think, oh, that just, that just can't happen. Yeah.
But
If you
our
had ever
doctor,
spent time in a small town, you would definitely know why that happens.
our doctor is a rock star, and we don't have that problem. And
Right?
I walked
Very, very
into
serious about the rules.
what I did was I called and made an appointment because of course I had forgotten to get my pap smear done, and I don't even know how long I'd forgotten to do it. And so I was like, well, I'll just make an appointment for my pap smear, and then while I'm in there and she's down there, and we'll, check the oil.
Right?
So
Rotate tires.
exactly, check the blinker fluid. I go in there and I say to the doctor after we get done, I put my pants back on, and I'm like, she's like, or no, I don't even think I had my pants on yet. Nope, I was sitting in the gown on the table, and I'm like, I need to have an STD test. And she looks up at me like, what? And she's like, are you having an affair? And I was like, no, I'm swinging. And he was there and he knows. And I may have been exposed to herpes. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I was like, oh, okay. And of course, she says to me, though, that if you just had sex and you've just been exposed, the chances that you are going to show that you have it is like none. Because STD tests are crap and worthless. They're as good as the paper they are written on, because you could go in there and it could have been too soon and you don't have enough of the whatevers to show up on a test, or
Which
you
is
could,
also scary as shit.
right? Yeah, because you could have it for quite a minute before you knew you had it. Or you could go in there, get a test, and then walk out of there, fuck some dude in the parking lot, and end up with herpes. And the piece of paper that you have that you only get done every 6 months, because that's more often than most people get tested, is absolutely worthless.
Pretty much. That's the thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand about this lifestyle and the whole testing bit, and they get all Nazi crazy about it. And then you're like, well, yeah, but that's then you explain that to them, and then they're like, oh, we never thought of that.
Well, and I mean that was what we thought when we got. I mean, he had his test results. He was clean. I mean, we were like, okay, I can't have a kid. I mean, I can't get pregnant. I have an IUD. Mr.
We haven't had
West.
sex with anybody else besides each other since we got married. So, there's that for us. We felt pretty secure about the whole we were being safe thing.
And besides that, come on, wearing a condom is no fun. Yeah, I know, irresponsible. So, I do not have herpes. Long story
Right.
short, I did not end up with herpes, but I did learn that you should get tested, and you should get tested about once every 6 months. And this is the reason why you should get tested. And this is the reason why you should find out if other people get tested. And that is because if you care enough to get your junk tested, then you care where you put your junk at.
Right. People that don't test are the ones that are, getting gangbanged in the adult theater, no condoms on the, every other weekend. And although they might be a lot of fun and shit, there's a lot of risk revolved in that.
No judgment, but
No, I mean,
like, I
like, I
mean, if
think
you're
it's hot as
gonna
shit. And I mean, like, we wouldn't mind trying it, but it's, the part about like, well, I can end up with, you know, lots of different,
gonorrhea or something, or no, what
yeah,
is it?
something, I mean, like,
Gonorrhea or some shit like that. I can't remember. Not
right. Yeah. I
good.
mean, so there's the level of risk changes on the activities you choose to do. So choose to do those as smart as you can. As my wife always says, be stupid smarter.
Yes, be stupid smarter. If you're gonna do dumb shit, at least mitigate the dumb shit. If you're gonna do drugs for the first time, do it across the street from the emergency room. Things like
Right.
that.
Exactly. I mean, you got to be safe about, doing shit really dumb.
So these are the two things, I guess, two things that we learned from the first time that we swung. I don't know. Had a
Whatever.
threesome. Had a threesome. is, first of all, sometimes you just have to jump in with both feet and just like rip the Band-Aid off. Because I know a lot of couples that have talked to me who sit and they're like, well, but it just didn't seem quite right. And but and I would do that all day long. Now you
Right.
won't.
Well, I mean, like I mean, I even have a little bit trouble sometimes, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things that's if you've both sat down and thoroughly gone over the pros and cons and you are both, not just one more than the other, both on the same page and the same level of like, we want to go do this. The nerves, I think, are completely normal, and the reluctance to do it is completely normal because what if it doesn't go good? And what if your relationship can't recover from it? I
Yeah, so don't
think
jump
that
in before
comes
you weigh the pros and cons.
right. I think
Do your
both
homework.
people need to be on the same page and understand the repercussions of what could, come down the road from it. And I think if you understand those things and are you're both communicating and on the same page, I think the risk of it damaging your relationship is mitigated significantly.
But also, try anything for science at least once. But, if you're
Right.
going to follow
And
the scientific method 3 times
yeah, and sometimes more than three times because the results just aren't quite
across
right.
the
You don't,
board,
right. I mean,
you
like
got to get like
sometimes you got to try it 10 times. Um,
force yourself. Twist my arm. And
right.
then the other one, get tested because, well, you don't want to be the person with the dirty junk.
This is a small world, way, way smaller than people imagine. And the swinging world is even smaller than that. And you definitely don't want to be the person that got, you know, the sex party, the clap, because you won't
Well,
ever
it's
be
better than
invited to
being the
another one.
person. It's better than being the person who gave the sex party herpes. Because I think the clap
Right.
you can give like penicillin and you
It
can
was,
get over
yeah,
it.
it was generalizing, but I mean, like, they're gonna talk and they're gonna, yeah, I mean, so
You're gonna be
it's,
that guy with the
you're gonna be
dirty
that
dick.
guy or the guy woman, and you don't, or that couple, and you don't want to be that because your
Then you don't get to play
longevity in the
anymore.
lifestyle, right? Your longevity
Nobody
in the
wants to play with
lifestyle will
you.
be limited. I agree. Get tested and maybe care about where you stick your shit.
It's like that. It's like the oil field thing. Don't stick your
Don't
dick.
stick your dick where you wouldn't stick your hands.
Don't stick your hands where you don't stick your dick.
Yeah, don't stick your hands where you wouldn't stick your dicks. Fucking, I got that all fucked up. But yeah, that's it. I mean, think about that one for a second and it'll make a lot of sense.
Yeah, as long as you think about it the right direction.
Right, right.
Unless you're talking about
Hands,
syphilis, and then you should definitely not stick your dick anywhere you wouldn't put your hand.
exactly, exactly.
Both ways. It just depends on
Both
if you're talking
ways
about
doesn't matter.
syphilis or pinch points.
Right.
All right. Well then. So thank you very much for helping me out with this one, hun. And I think that I will get you to come and help me with the one about the awkward couples because that's just so much.
Oh, that one is always fun to tell.
Yeah, that's some special shit right there. So thank you very much, and I will talk to you later, honey.
Talk to you later. Have a good one.
One of the things I'm the most excited for and looking forward to is hearing your adventures. So, down below in the show notes, we will have an email address that you can send your adventure stories to. And if your stories are good enough, we might even bring you on the show to tell them in person. Another way that you can get a hold of me and tell me your stories or offer me suggestions, which I'm sure I'm going to need, will be on Instagram, Reddit, and all of those are at May Wild West. And make sure you spell it like Wylan. Also, down below in our show notes will be a link to my podcast website where you can find more episodes and more information about May Wild West. If you had a good time with me today, and I've been told that I'm always a good time, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on a single compelling story, exciting adventure, or just ridiculous bullshit. And if you could do a girl a favor and share this podcast with all your other inappropriate friends, I'd sure appreciate it. Well, that's all for now, so see you next time.